Okay, I believe we are on live. I'm going to drop a link in the chat for Aubrey to see. Aubrey, feel free to reshare that.
All right, I will do that
Okay,
right now.
we're good to go. Thank you all for joining us, our speakers and everyone out there. Super excited to dig in today. As many of you probably know, BioV2 has launched with BioXP up and running. We have our first BioAgent sale that we have announced, a AI co-scientist built on the private lab and brain of someone we have here today, Aubrey DeGray, Dr. Aubrey DeGray. So very excited to dig into that. Just some admin stuff first. The BioAgent sale is coming very soon. Keep your eye out. In order to participate, you'll need both BioXP and Bio. All the instructions are in our docs and in our tweets that we've shared recently. So stay tuned for more on that. Today, we are going to be diving in first with James Sink, our head of science, and Dr. Aubrey Gray. Then we will move on to Akash, diving into the sort of infrastructure behind bioagents and how to use bioagents. And lastly, Clemens, our head of product, will join, and he'll dive into the sale mechanics, the new front end, and all of that. So without further ado, I will pass it over to James and let you take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate. Hello, everyone. We're super excited, as Nate shared, to have Aubrey DeGray join us. For those who don't know him yet, he's an absolute legend in the longevity space. Aubrey, I think you're probably one of the most well-known inside of the ecosystem for longevity, as someone who's been outspoken around the concept of escape velocity from the very beginning. And an important concept for, I think, the ecosystem to rally around. But maybe for those who don't know who you are in the space, we can start. I'd love for you to explain a little bit about your journey and how you became so well known in the longevity space. And then we can move on to maybe talking a little bit more about your SENS framework and longevity escape velocity as a concept in general.
Yeah, sure. So yes, I'm 62 years old, and I didn't feel that way. I was not initially a biologist. I started out working in AI research in the 1980s when AI research was very different from what it is now. And then I met and married a biologist, and the result was I discovered the absolutely horrifying fact that hardly anybody cared about aging, and hardly anybody was trying to do anything about it. So I switched fields, and after about 5 years of being fairly harmless and publishing a bunch of reasonably well-received ideas, I then had the big eureka moment in 2000, realizing that turning back the clock of aging, actually rejuvenating people, was likely to be a lot easier than slowing the clock down, which was very counterintuitive to a lot of people. It took me quite a few years to persuade my colleagues that this made sense. But it's very much a mainstream concept now. It really, that period came to a very definite end in 2013 with the publication of a paper called The Hallmarks of Aging, which was essentially a restatement of what I'd said a decade earlier, but which, whose time had come, if you like, and therefore, it became very much the Bible of the field, and so that's now a very mainstream concept. But yeah, in parallel with developing these scientific ideas, I started to come to the attention of the wider world, largely because of the concept of longevity escape velocity, which is essentially the idea that if we are actually extending life by rejuvenation, by turning the clock back rather than slowing it down, then we have a huge opportunity to gain effectively indefinite longevity, just by keeping one step ahead of the problem, by developing an initial, very incomplete portfolio of rejuvenation methods that maybe give us 20 years of life, but in those 20 years, improving that portfolio to make it more comprehensive and so on. And this was what led me to make predictions of extremely rapid increases in longevity, which a lot of my colleagues felt, were bringing the field into disrepute, because they sounded like science fiction, and it kind of didn't matter whether my logic was correct. So that's been an idea that's taken a lot of time to become accepted in the field. However, within the wider world, it definitely got people's attention, and I started, doing high-profile media, and I was on 60 Minutes and Colbert and things like that. And also, I was asked to speak at general audience conferences like TED. So that was rather useful, not only in terms of meeting the kind of people who would financially support the work that I wanted to do, but also in terms of allowing me to inspire people and grow the community. And so, as you say, I've been pretty successful in that. And honestly, I'm just as proud of that as I am of my scientific contributions. And I'm very much continuing to operate at both of those levels.
And in that regard, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're one of the folks who've either coined the term, or you were actually the creator of the term longevity escape velocity. Is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So I have a very rudimentary definition when I explain what that is, which is, every year that passes, we add more than 1 year to healthy lifespan. How would you describe what longevity escape velocity is, sort of on a technical basis and sort of more of a philosophy? And I think we've seen a lot of that, those concepts emerge in popular culture, but I think, you being the originator probably have a very original take on this.
Well, right. So, so when we reach the point where our biological age is not increasing, or maybe it's even decreasing, as our chronological age is increasing, that will be when we have reached longevity escape velocity. And there will be a single point when we reach there, and we will never fall back below longevity escape velocity thereafter, simply because the further we get in terms of making our rejuvenation portfolio more and more comprehensive, the longer it takes for the really difficult things that we still can't fix to catch up with us, so to speak, and make us sick. So a friend of mine, Paul Hynek, a long time ago, coined the term the Methuselarity, but by analogy with the singularity, which is the point at which we reach longevity escape velocity. So what is longevity escape velocity? I define it in terms of rate of progress in the research. So I describe it as the minimum rate at which scientists have to continue to improve the comprehensiveness of this rejuvenation portfolio in order to stay one step ahead of the problem, such that people who are receiving the state-of-the-art therapies at any point will not have an increasing biological age.
And it's clear to me, just based on your track record, that you were onto ideas or concepts before maybe we had the validation that they were as valuable as they ended up turning up. Right, like you researched AI back in the 1980s, and now AI is the talk of the town. It's one of the most impactful modern technologies we have. Your concept of rejuvenating and actually turning back the time of the cell has been validated by Yamanaka and his research. In your mind, where are we headed as an ecosystem, and how do you see AI playing a role in the general acceleration towards hitting longevity escape velocity?
So, I mean, I think you're talking about the research ecosystem mostly.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. So, I have always felt that it is vital to define aging research extremely broadly. When I started running conferences back in 2003, my conferences were very different from anything that existed at the time, in the sense that I was inviting people from a wide range of disciplines. And of course, for anyone I invited to speak, it would be because their work I felt was relevant to bring aging under medical control in due course. But they would never, a lot of them would not think of themselves as gerontologists. I remember literally a lot of people, receiving an invitation from me and writing back and saying, well, thank you, Dr. de Grey, I'm very honored, but, I don't work on aging, so why on earth are you inviting me? And I would have to explain, right? So, I've continued to do that. I always, every conference I run, I bring in people that most of the mainstream gerontologists have never heard of, and they will see why. And this makes the conferences very enjoyable, of course, for people who are bored of just seeing the same old people at every conference. But it also makes the field more coherent. It means that there is more opportunity for synergy and for opportunities that I hadn't thought of to happen. And this applies absolutely when we broadened outside of wet lab work and we talk about AI. AI has certainly already transformed medical research. Of course, the most conspicuous example over the past few years must be AlphaFold, which I think most people will know what that is. It's been used by a number of very successful companies like in silico medicine and BioAge to identify new drugs that might have just not been identified by standard methods. That's definitely going to continue. I can totally see as AI becomes more and more powerful that it will continue to have a broader and broader impact on medical research and certainly on anti-aging research. But one thing I will say, because this is something that's often neglected, is that AI can't do it on its own. AI does not create data out of thin air. It creates insights out of data. And therefore, we still have to do the tedious wet lab experiments, figuring out what actually works in mice and so on, in order to give AIs the substrate with which to, help us, to help them, to help us.
Absolutely, and it creates a feedback loop, in the ideal case, where these insights that come out of the wet lab data can better feed our AI models to deliver better hypotheses, experimental designs, which we then validate, and the flywheel takes off. That's a future we're extremely excited about at Bio, and one of the reasons that we've been particularly looking forward to working with you on the Aubrey AI agent. Maybe I'll ask one last question and then switch it over to Akash to give him an opportunity to chat a little bit about what it was like behind the scenes building this out. But in your mind, how do you see the symbiosis or the integration of AI with humans to help us reach this longevity escape velocity? Obviously, we're excited about having a clone of yourself that can operate 24/7, generating these ideas, continue to push the field forward even while you're sleeping. But I'm wondering, what do you see is sort of that nexus or that inflection point looking like?
I guess over the past decade, as AI has flourished more and more, I have learned not to form opinions about where it's going because I've been pleasantly surprised over and over again.
Yeah.
I actually am a good friend of Demis Hassabis. I've known him since he was an undergraduate, and so I was very much following the early development of DeepMind with the Atari games and of course with AlphaGo. And I actually, way back, I actually, when I was an undergraduate, when Demis was still in high school, I worked on board game playing programs, and I was thinking of actually, I tried to work on a program to play Go. I came to the same conclusion that basically everybody else had come to, namely that it was decades away, and then it wasn't. Same with AlphaFold. It's just completely crazy how suddenly this breakthrough was made. I think the best way to answer your question is simply to say that we will be able to use these agents like Aubrey to facilitate human thinking as well. I think it's possible that Aubrey will come up with new hypotheses that are useful, but I think what's going to happen probably to a greater degree is that just by talking to the agent and getting feedback that could have come from me, people will have their own ideas that they wouldn't have had if they hadn't been able to talk to the agent or to me at similar depth.
To that point, I actually see this as an opportunity for anyone in the world to have access to your insights and your worldview. I think about the democratization of access of information and the ability to do science is a key important piece of accelerating the ecosystem. And I think being able to engage with a thinker like you at any moment, even while you're asleep, will help kind of expand the surface area at which we're moving science forward and ultimately accelerate our ability to get to LEV. I
would say that's true at least two levels. First of all, the fact that, it's 24/7 and it can talk to multiple people at the same time. I've been painfully aware for the longest time of how pitiful my bandwidth is. Because people write to me all the time and they ask me questions and they say, how can I help, and so on, and I do my best, but it's just one guy, right? And so this is very, very important. And the second one, of course, is that the agent knows a lot more than I know. I read a lot, I talk to a lot of people, I know a lot, but the agent knows everything on the internet.
So you're almost being humble in a way to say that it's got a more comprehensive knowledge set than you, but surely there's some insight that you together with the agent can probably develop that someone else with the agent might not be able to. Like I'm bullish on your unique capacity to riff with a clone of yourself.
No, that is exactly right, and it remains to be seen, but I am very optimistic about that. There's a lot of other people who have different knowledge sets than me and who will gain different ideas from riffing with my agent. But yeah, me riffing with my agent may be the single most efficient thing. We shall see.
We shall see, certainly. Cool. I feel like I could ask you questions or kind of ponder down the space for a long time, but I know we also want to get past the torch over to Akash and hear a little bit more about what it was like on the back end of building this entire stack. So maybe Akash, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say it's so surreal, Aubrey. We haven't met before. It's a pleasure to meet you, but having been part of building out the Aubrey agent over the last few months and to meet the real person is quite something.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to say reciprocally that, you and some others on the team that have built this thing, are people I haven't met before. And I am so grateful for the, enormous effort that you guys have put in. We are eternally thankful for what you guys have done.
Absolutely. And I think something that's almost a cliche in the AI space right now, I know Sam Altman from OpenAI says this often, but like the AI is the worst it's ever going to be today. I think it's understanding that the journey is just going to continue. These agents are going to get smarter and smarter, and how that progresses over the next few months, over the next couple of years. Like I can't wait till the day when Aubrey is part of an important scientific discovery that actually gets us to longevity escape velocity. That's going to be so cool. Maybe I'll give a bit of a high-level overview of what we have built. So the Aubrey agent, it has been constructed from a number of internal documents specific to the LEV Foundation that LEV was gracious enough to provide to us. These include different books that have been published in general, but also unpublished works. So, for example, scientific papers, manuscripts, editorials, these sorts of things, which kind of give the agent a little bit of an edge. So you actually do get some of that alpha, you could say, of speaking to someone like Aubrey de Grey. It's obviously not the real Aubrey de Grey, but it does have access to those insights. It's been trained, fine-tuned on this information, so you do get something a little bit special that you would not see if you were interacting with a ChatGPT or Claude or any of these other models. So it's definitely one of the differentiating factors. There's also this other piece that Aubrey, it was very interesting to hear you speak about this, about how these AIs know more than you. One of the things that we have done is we have given Aubrey access to a wide variety, thousands of longevity-specific papers that can readily gain insights from in providing scientific answers. So
actually, Akash, let me stop you there, because that's one thing where I think we can actually do even better. I have, for the whole of my time in this field, been very focused on trying to have as much of a grasp of the published literature as I can. Initially, I did it myself. It ended up being like taking like 2 days a week of my time, but that was 20 years ago. And then I got one of my people to do it for a long time, Michael Ray, and then it was taken over by Max Peter, who still does it. And he's an absolute machine. I have no idea how he manages to get through all the papers that come through. But the point is, he and indeed other groups have put together a big database of papers that are not just longevity related, but are, intervention related, that fit with the SENS framework. And we need to make sure that you have direct access to those people and those databases so as to refine that.
Oh, absolutely. We would totally love to do that. We can definitely refine the knowledge bases that the agent has access to. I think it will only not only improve its existing knowledge, but potentially lead us towards unexplored terrains that sit at these kind of cross sections. You mentioned that different sort of out of domain papers that are not that do apply the SENS framework. That's fascinating. Definitely not in our literature. So some of the ways that we have incorporated this knowledge within the agent, there's an open model. It's called Open Scholar. If anyone's interested, please check this out. It came out of, I don't want to remember. I don't want to forget the university. I think it was Allen Institute. But anyways, they've shown that Open Scholar is able to synthesize over 45 million scientific papers and actually generates much better, higher performance recall, state of the art compared to any other algorithm. I think previously paper QA2 was the leading model here from Future House, another great AI research lab. But Open Scholar seems to perform even better than paper QA2. So what we did was we took the base model for Open Scholar and we actually fine-tuned it with a corpus of longevity literature. I think I might be remiss remembering this, but about 4,000 longevity papers. So you have the benefits of the base Open Scholar model with this longevity focus included. If anybody here is interested, you can take a look at these. The model weights are available on the bioprotocol Hugging Face. So we're not open sourcing everything about the agent, but we will open source what we can. And in particular, the Open Scholar model is available. We've also, with these thousands of longevity papers, we've constructed a knowledge graph, which is, you can think of this as like a semantic representation of the different core concepts that come up within a longevity research paper, and not just being able to link them based off of citations, but being able to link them based off of concepts. So sometimes you don't realize that, hey, papers are actually very similar unless you're really knowledgeable or you've mapped or represented the data out in a very interesting way. So we're very excited about how the knowledge graph does improve the quality of Aubre's responses, and very much looking forward to seeing how the existing information that the LEV Foundation has, and I guess we'll be providing a bit more of, which we'll definitely incorporate, can combine with these other sources of knowledge and information. Aubrey, how does that sound to you, by the way? Does that sound like powerful?
It sounds mind-blowing. I am absolutely overjoyed about all of that. It's like, I was honestly not aware of 80% of what you just said. And, it's music to my ears. It's exactly what we need.
That's amazing. Yeah, we've been cooking and going to be continuing to do that. I can maybe, Nate, do you think I can share my screen right now to just show a little bit more?
Yeah, if you just try to share, I can add it to the stage.
Yep.
In the meantime, I'll say one of the things that I'm really excited to see here is the capacity for these agents to continue to scan the literature to find new insightful papers that can be incorporated into the lab here. And I think that that'll significantly allow us to make sure we're on the bleeding edge of the best possible ideas that can be found at all possible times on a time frame where, Aubrey, you can better spend your cognitive resources focused on moving whatever irons you have on the fire are, while your agent in the back end continues to reap from the scientific tree of knowledge that's getting developed by the international scientific community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And that I'm very much looking forward to the same thing. Also, actually, while you have this screen up, let me just say how much I like the animations that you guys have been producing. These are like, I would never have thought of this kind of thing, but I have never been made to look quite so badass as this. So I'll take it. You know, I've been compared to a lot of people over the years. I get a lot of Jesus and Moses and, you know, Gandalf and so on. I guess the one that I prefer the most is Rasputin, who is a bit of a badass. So yes, I'll take this. It's brilliant.
I love it.
Yeah, I love to hear that too. A design team has been working really hard, as you know, with all the AI creator tools. It's really fascinating what you can do. So yeah, I'll just give a kind of quick rundown of how we're going to be presenting Aubrey to the world. I'm so excited about how we can basically amplify Aubrey's insights with Aubrey by orders of magnitude, allowing anybody to come up with interesting scientific discussions, potentially scientific hypotheses too, which can actually get us to longevity, escape velocity. So I believe a lot of the people who are on this call are aware that there's this Aubrey _ Twitter account. This is the official one. If you see anything else, please ignore it. This is the official one.
I should probably interrupt and say there is actually, I found this out the hard way, an Aubrey without the underscore, which is some perfectly normal actual person. So yeah, don't do that.
I did see that too. They might have gotten like a boost of followers recently.
Right.
But yeah, it is Aubrey with the underscore. So please make sure that you are following this Twitter account, X account. Would definitely recommend you do follow it, because just maybe a little bit of a spoiler, but Aubrey will be speaking back to you soon. It's not going to be fully turned on. I think we see this initializing 87%. There's going to be a bit of a slow rollout, but if you do tag Aubrey and you ask some very interesting questions, you will be able to see Aubrey's genuine actual responses. And I have played around with this myself, not obviously on this account, but just kind of in the background. And it is really quite mind-blowing what you can get with this. So would love to see what everybody is playing with. This is definitely here today. We can't promise that the agent will respond, but hopefully if you're lucky, it will.
And so can you actually explain what it means to say that the agent is 87% initialized?
I think that's just more of like a mimetic thing, if anything.
It's not actually looking at some progress bar somewhere.
Yeah, so actually, to be honest, the agent is like live and ready. The agent's already listening. We're just kind of holding the agent back right now.
I see.
So that's kind of what that is. Okay, so I'll just show a couple more things. So I've pulled up the Aubrey dashboard here. If you go to aubr.ai, it will lead you to this. Basically, the way we have thought about this is giving a very quick high-level snapshot of the agent, all of its activities within one singular place. So for everybody here who's into crypto, the way that I think about this is if you're on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko and you click one of the tickers, you get this expanded view. That's kind of how we're thinking about it with Aubrey. So some of the key features that we wanted to highlight, obviously the token, soon to be token, financial metrics would come here. But more interesting from my perspective too is the DeSci metrics. So the number of hypotheses that Aubrey generates, the number of papers that are ingested within the knowledge graph, the number of graph entities. These are a great way to understand not only what does Aubrey currently have, but how is it learning, how is it contributing to the overall space. We also have Aubrey posts on X. Obviously, it's very low right now because Aubrey is not super chatty at the moment. But these last two, which I really do want to highlight, are kind of interesting from the crypto DeSci perspective. So we have POI minted. POI stands for proof of invention, and IPNFTs minted. IPNFT and POI are concepts that come from the molecule.xyz. If you want to check them out, shout out to them. These are basically crypto primitives that are able to track on-chain different scientific pieces of intelligence. So what we are tracking here is how many POIs Aubrey generates in conjunction with users and actually putting them on chain. So essentially, everybody who's interacting with Aubrey, if there's an interesting scientific hypothesis, that goes on chain. That goes on chain in the form of a proof of invention. And then just like the scientific process, like you start with a lot of ideas. Most of them are bad, but eventually some of them get good. Some of them are very good. You eventually have an IPNFT minted. So obviously we say initializing here. I don't think we did that intentionally with the Twitter, but we'll start off with 0, and then eventually we will have like a pipeline of POIs and IPNFTs. I can go into a little more detail here. Perhaps it's not the best time to like go into the full specifics of how this flow would work, but you can see here very high level. If for those of you watching, you can take a screenshot or watch this on a recording later. The overall flow for how we're speccing this out is you start off with a hypothesis, you go to a proof of invention, an IPNFT, and finally further R&D. We've started off with Twitter, but you can just imagine that this will come in a wide variety of interfaces in the future. So yeah, I mean, I think that's all I wanted to share right now. I'd love to maybe, if anyone on this call wants to open the floor, ask some questions, love to address anything.
I just want to say this proof of invention concept is so cool. It's like, it really, for a crypto novice like myself, or more like a crypto ignoramus, it really makes it so much more real for me. It really, I begin to understand how this can really change the incentive structures.
Yeah, and I'll just say one more quick thing about that. Obviously, Aubrey is an autonomous scientific agent on chain. When you do have Aubrey coming up with these POIs, it's almost like you have like a global decentralized laboratory where, within the context of a normal physical lab space, you have to like actually be in the physical space. Or in this world that we in the DeSci community are trying to build, you can just interact with an agent on Twitter, potentially come up with a really interesting scientific hypothesis, and that's your collaboration. Getting that on chain, which can eventually become an IPNFT and then have further R&D, like that is really what a global decentralized laboratory looks like.
Yeah, got it.
I'm glad you said that, because I think the key piece here is basically removing the barriers to the ivory tower of science that I think we've seen stifle innovation. And so if anyone who has an inquiry or a curiosity can engage in the exploration process with Aubrey or Aubrey, they can actually be a part of the creation of that solution and stamp their contribution in a public way that allows them to get not just rewarded, but recognized for their kind of a contribution. There's a lot of examples in science over the years where people do make important contributions to core fundamental technologies, such as the discovery and adoption of fluorescence, but they're forgotten by textbooks that are not mentioned in Nobel Prizes, so on and so forth, simply because they were not heads of labs or PIs and so on and so forth. But by building out this system on chain in a transparent, decentralized way, anyone, anywhere, no matter who they are, can contribute, and then also have the credibility of their scientific prowess stored for them, and allow them to maintain and build up a sense of credibility, even if they aren't anointed by the modern powers that be. And to me, that's a really important piece of what this allows the scientific ecosystem to transform from where it was to where we want it to go. Amazing. I think I'll say one more thing here, and then maybe we can pass it over to Clement, who I see just joined us. Great to have you, Clem. Aubrey, I think we are really excited about all the ways that AI systems, especially when brought on chain, can help to expand the surface area and sort of like collisions that will lead to breakthroughs into outcomes. Are you able to talk at all about ways that you're anticipating or excited to use this agent to expand the work you guys are doing at LEVF?
Sure. So I guess the one I'd like to start with, because perhaps it's the most concrete one at the moment, is something that just came up during Akash's remarks, namely the literature aspect. So let's say we've had this extraordinarily labor-intensive approach to trying to keep abreast of the literature over the past 20 years. It's worked pretty well. And of course, as I've become more prominent over the years, people have helped in the sense of just coming to me and making me aware of things that seem to be interesting. But having AI do it be part of that team is going to be huge.
Totally.
There are constantly things that I just miss, or they aren't published yet. But they are like on the archive, or they've been talked about at a conference that I wasn't at, things like that. So in terms of just keeping abreast of the opportunities that are around, that could speed things up a lot. I can definitely think of very concrete examples of cases where a discovery was made that as soon as I heard about it, in like 10 seconds, I realized that it had enormous potential, but I could have heard about it 2 years earlier,
Yeah.
and that that needs to happen much more. So that's possibly the first thing that's gonna matter. I guess then, in terms of how to actually get experiments done. So the work that we do at LEV Foundation is these really huge mouse lifespan experiments where we're combining a whole bunch of different things that have individually got potential. And the logistical aspect of that is a complete fucking nightmare, and I've got a very small team, so we're constantly, under the gun trying to make things happen and not make, mistakes that would look dumb later on with hindsight, but that we just made them because we didn't have the time or whatever. Just identifying the most cost-effective providers of reagents, identifying opportunities to get these things done more efficiently, perhaps more quickly. These are things that, again, the agent is definitely going to be providing information that we don't have. No, that's just a couple of examples.
Totally. Actually, I didn't even think about reagent sourcing, but that like makes complete sense, because you're trying to see, hey, Sigma Aldrich is always going to charge you a premium, but there's probably a better source out there that'll help extend. And make
an example of that. So one of the things that we're going to be incorporating in our next experiment is something called mouse serum albumin. And we're probably going to get it from this one, like, essentially garage provider, just basically a one-man band who happens to provide recombinant proteins to the community. But I came across them completely by accident. That's not good.
No, not at all. Not at all. And so yeah, having like a purchasing coordinator or a lab stock technician at the ready is just one of the many ways, like you're saying, I think we can use this technology to accelerate AI research. I'm super excited to roll this out to more folks and to see how they use it as well.
Let me give one more example, because this is actually quite important. So one group that we're working with in preparing for the next study and for the future studies is a group named Alden Labs, which make what are called smart cages. Well, they're not really the cages that are smart, it's the lid of the cage that's smart. It has a whole bunch of sensors and cameras and so on, so as to gather large amounts of data in real time on what's going on with mice, with how much they're eating, how much they're moving, things like that. And this is extraordinarily valuable in terms of giving much higher quality and higher granularity data than could possibly be achieved by technicians. So that's fantastic. But then we've got to analyze the fucking thing, right? We've got a huge amount of data. And so, of course, we very, very much want to leverage all of the technologies that you guys and others are developing so as to streamline that process, so as to actually extract, insights from this vast, a torrent of data that we're going to be getting.
And AI systems built right into your process flow allows you to get a really great first pass understanding, while a human can come in and kind of do some of the deeper thinking there, or even actually co-pilot with the AI systems to understand maybe when surprises erupt in the data, where the surprises may have come from. Like to me, as a scientist, I feel like the times I've learned the most is when something unexpected but interesting has come out of an experimental result, and then it sends the whole lab group into like, all right, whiteboarding mode. What could this mean? Where could it have come from? Is it noise? Is that actually undiscovered signal? And I feel like that process is only going to be more fun with AI as a co-pilot there.
Totally that.
Yeah. Amazing. All right, we have Clemens on the call with us as well, so I'd love to get him jumping into the space. Clemens, maybe a little bit from you. How are you doing?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Extremely excited to be here. Very, very nice to meet you.
Okay.
I had the honor to already speak a lot with your digital twin, and very excited to now meet the man that the digital twin is modeled by. I was thinking, Akash, you and Obre is almost like the two parents with the AI team, obviously, that has been working on it, also being parents to it. Big family that has now birthed this like new entity, which is really exciting. So yeah, glad to be here. Clem or Klep here, which is basically I'm running the product and tech things all around bio, focusing very strongly right now, obviously, on our launchpad and something that maybe the one or the other person has already seen on Twitter, the point system, which is giving access to these launches that we're doing, Obre being the first one, and then in the future, hopefully, based on the amazing work that is basically Obre that is being built on, hopefully also other entities that are focusing on different research angles, research environments, specializations, and potentially things that Obre can in the future also interact with. If, for example, he or it is interested in certain other research areas. Okay, so I was thinking maybe I give you a quick rundown of like the launch mechanic that we'll be employing for Obre, and how basically the token will be launched. And I'll also share a little bit of a front-end preview for everyone who is interested to see how like this interaction will actually play out. Most of you, it was probably already mentioned, most of you know that underneath the AI agent is also a very interesting research project, or very important research project happening, the RMR2 study, which is targeting the lifespan of mice. And such research projects obviously need for a lot of money to actually come to fruition. And so we got a couple of people already together, a couple of investors that kind of funded the first batch for that. That fall kind of on an initial investor bucket to kind of get the study funded. But the major goal of actually the token and the token raise is in the future to allow more and more funds to flow into the study and finance it until the end, so that we can actually get basically all the data out of this and make breakthroughs when it comes to longevity. And so the launch here really is actually, with the token, is not aimed to fund now the whole study, because that would actually be pretty hard, even in crypto terms. But it's actually to create a liquidity pool, a token in the crypto markets, which through trading and trading fees can actually slowly aggregate then the funds for the research project. So the initial fundraise that we will be doing for the Obrey token will actually just go into a liquidity pool with the token. So this is not a lot of funds. But then this will basically allow trading for this token. Every time somebody trades, the fees will be flowing to the research project to further it. And with that, allow the research project over time, over the next couple of months and years, to continuously receive funds from this trading. And one can think of like a trading fee or trading tax there.
Yeah, so perhaps, Clem, I should talk a little bit about the structure of the RMR2 project and future studies of a similar nature that we want to do. So yes, so my goal over the past quarter century has been to develop a kind of, as I was saying earlier, a portfolio of interventions that initially in mice and eventually in humans, of course, will repair the damage that the body does to itself throughout life. And it needs to be a portfolio, because the fact is the body is a really, really, really complicated machine that it does a lot of different types of damage to itself in the course of its normal operation, and which is what we call aging. And each of those types of damage has to be repaired by a particular type of intervention. So that means there are inherently two phases to this whole approach. One phase is to develop the individual damage repair modalities, and the second phase is to put them together. A lot of what I have to explain to people is that this is basically the same as any kind of pioneering engineering, pioneering technology, but in normal pioneering technology, you have the same thing. You have to develop a bunch of components and you put them together, but the putting together part is the easy part, because you can be pretty sure that once the bits work, that the whole thing's going to work. In medicine, it's not like that, because we're working to manipulate a machine that we have a very, very, very poor understanding of. And therefore, you can get plenty of surprises at that phase too, putting together things. So I've been desperate to get to the point of putting things together as soon as I possibly could. Back at my previous foundation, I kicked off a kind of what I think we can call RMR 0 at the very first attempt to put two things together, which kind of ran into the sand after I left. But RMR 1, which was the first proper study of this nature, was the thing that I started as soon as I was able to start LEV Foundation. That was at the beginning of 2023, and the study ended maybe 6 months ago. So these are the studies that we need to do. The components that we put together are always ones that have already been shown by the community, one way or another, by other groups, to have some promise. Ideally, to actually extend lifespan in mice. But sometimes we have to compromise a little bit on that. But basically, that's what we're trying to do. And as time goes on, there's more and more choice of things that we want to combine, because things that other people have shown are successful. And so RMR 1, as I call it, from two and a half years ago when we were designing it, we didn't have much choice. We put 4 things together. There were not really very many other things that we could have chosen. Now, in the course of the past 2 years, there's been more and more coming out. So now we want to go further, especially because of the results of the first study, which were encouraging, but not encouraging enough. We want to go bigger. We put 4 things together in RMR 1, and RMR 2, we want to put 8 things together. So then we have to ask, how big is this experiment? Well, even RMR 1 with 1,000 mice, because it's not just a case of you have a group of mice that are, getting all of the things that you're testing, and another group, the control group, that are not getting them. You also have to have a group for each of the individual studies, each of the individual components, a group that only gets that one. Because if you don't do that, then you don't have validation that you're doing the experiment properly, that you're recapitulating what was previously published by other people, and that's critical. And then, as I mentioned, you're going to get surprises. And we find those surprises by having other treatment groups that get all but one of the interventions. Again, for each intervention, you just leave it out. The idea there is you identify cases where things cancel out, where things antagonize each other when you weren't expecting them to. So that means that in the 4 intervention experiment that we just did, we had 10 treatment groups. And that meant, given that we have 2 sexes and so on, that you needed 1,000 mice. That's a big experiment.
That's great.
And, we start with mice that are already in middle age because we're trying to repair damage, right? So, every single mouse that we start with costs a few $100s. And that's before you've even begun the experiment, and of course there's labor involved in some of the interventions. Some of them are cheap because you just put the stuff in the food, but some of them are not because we're doing cell therapies and gene therapies. So things have to be injected and, it's hard work. Plus, because we're doing damage repair, the costs are very front loaded. Most of the costs are right at the beginning of the experiment, not just buying the mice, but also most of the interventions. So actually, after that, keeping the mice alive for the next couple of years and seeing how long they live is relatively inexpensive. So what does all this add up to financially? Well, basically what it means is that the costs fall into 3 pots. There's one pot which is getting it going. There's another small pot which is keeping it going until the mice are dead. And then there's another fairly large pot which is analyzing the tissues from the dead mice to learn about what was going wrong with them, which organs suffered first, and so on. For the first experiment, we haven't even begun that last part yet because we can wait. We've got these tissues stored, frozen or fixed in formalin, and we'd like to do that, but it's not a top priority. But what is a top priority is to get the next experiment going. It's been designed for a while now. And I've been spending all hours that I can get trying to raise the money. So the first experiment cost $3.5 million, and the second one's going to cost like $6 million. We have a few cost savings, so it won't be 7 million because which would be twice 3.5, but it'll be still at least 5 or 6. The sooner we can get going, the sooner we will find things out and make a real difference and save lives. So I am so grateful to you guys for putting something in place that has the potential to bring in the resources to get this thing going sooner.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for the rundown there. I'm really excited to see what comes out of that study. Maybe as we're nearing the end of the call, we would like to quickly switch gears and just very briefly to the audience watching show how the process will look like for anyone who wants to participate in the initial race, and then kind of get an impression how also the front end is shaping up. So once it goes live, everybody already feels familiar. Nate, could you maybe support with sharing your screen? All right. So this is a Launchpad page that we have recently released that allows to see all the different projects that are planning to launch via Bio. At the top, you already see Opry, but also other DAOs and research agents will be listed here in the future, as well as IPTs, so individual research projects that plan to raise funds. Now, starting with agents, as they are actually something that people can really touch and feel and try out themselves. Opry will be the first one, and thanks for navigating into it, Nate. This is an overview page of what we have already shared, what people can find online right now. It gives an overview of all the current tweets of what it is about. People basically sharing already their sentiment towards it. Also, the team is listed at the bottom, as well as a description around the RMR2 study, tokenomics behind this project, and the token release schedule. I invite anyone to check it out and inform themselves about the background. What would we also like to show is very quickly how the launch would be looking like. As a lot of you know, access to this launch will be provided through the BioXP system. Basically, do it to the small fundraise amount that is needed. People will need to use the BioXP that they can earn through different mechanics, talking about decentralized science, about scientific projects around bio. On Twitter is one of the mechanics, but also using existing tokens to stake them, to support the network basically, and show their support of like wanting to signal that they're locked up. This also allows people to earn XP. These XP then basically buy an allocation in this individual race. So think of it as a pro rata allocation as soon as it's oversubscribed. And given that it's a quite small race, it will very likely be oversubscribed. Now, this is a test site that you see here on testnet, written at the top. So we're looking at OBRI tests that we've been using to basically simulate what will be happening in the future. All of the top parts you already know from our website. But if you scroll further down, you will see actually the ignition sale that we will be conducting. If it's oversubscribed, this will be shown on the right side, the general fundraise amount on the left side. And on the total right, also an explainer on the participation mechanic. So people can kind of read up on it if it's not 100% clear from our documentation or an explanation that you've seen, as well as the component to actually pledge your support with the points and the tokens. Both of that will be pledged at the same time. Below, there's a commit section that gives an overview of all the different commits that have been done by people that are participating. So that will obviously expand and will be scrollable and is sorted by the biggest supporters of the project, the biggest points, and the biggest bio committed, as well as a timestamp around this. Of course, it's important to keep track of what one has self-committed to this, and so that is a little bit of a section right below the bar at the center section there. One can see their own BioXP that have been pledged, as well as the bio contribution, and in the other two fields, just give an overview of what's the valuation that this is currently being raised for. And then the further down section will just continue being the same information that we've seen on the other pages, giving an overview of what the Twitter, what's been going on Twitter, what OBRI has been up to, and what, again, the token distribution and the project is all about. Cool. I think one interesting page that we have recently taken live is the markets page. As OBRI is joining a lot of other very exciting DeSci projects that are already live, that have raised already funds for certain research angles. You can check it out on the markets page to learn about how these tokens are being traded, but also you can click on the individual projects and learn about what's the scientific angle behind them. BioDAO, very famous one that is also supporting or has been helping OBRI to get to become reality, to be one of the driving forces behind it. Make sure to read up on what they've been doing as well. And one last note, the launches will be on Base for everyone who is familiar with L2s. That's the one from Coinbase. And for any other token, as a lot of you know, Bio Protocol is spread on several chains. You find all the information on the front end where you can find these tokens if you're interested in them. All right, that was a quick rundown. Enough with the crypto. Do we have a little bit more time to speak on the science, or do we need to jump off?
Maybe I can make one last point about the science here. I think one of the most important things, Aubrey, that you're doing is trying to explore the multimodality of these therapies and seeing how they intersect. And I think that that's actually, like you've explained, the way when you combine these, they become exponentially more complex. And we see AI as being one of the perfect supporters, and we're going to manage all that increasing complexity, because trying to fit, an experiment that involves 1,000 mice in any one person's head is pretty challenging. And I'm imagining RMR3 will be even more ambitious than RMR2 is already. So we're particularly excited to see how we can use OBRI and all the suite of tools we're building out to help you reach, and the rest of society, longevity, escape velocity.
Well, thank you. Absolutely agreed.
Cool. Actually, on the RMR3, would it be RMR4? Would it be just, and then 8 and 16?
Good point. So at this point, I think the number of interventions that we want to put together is probably going to stay stable at 8. I don't think we're going to go further than that, at least not for the foreseeable future. Basically, the results of RMR1, even especially taking into account the fact that there are some things that we probably could have done better, give me reason to believe that 8's going to be enough to get to the RMR threshold that I've always described. This threshold of getting a 12-month increase in lifespan of these mice, which is 3 times what people have achieved so far. People have been able to get to 4 months using calorie restriction or rapamycin. No one's got beyond 4 months. So the 12-month criterion is where I want to get to. Once we're there, I think basically the work on mice will be done, because the impact on people's fatalism with regard to human aging will be so enormous that there's going to be a proper COVID scale war on aging, and that's what essentially I can retire at that point. The world will get on with it.
All right. On that note, thank you guys. We're at the top of the hour. It was an amazing talk. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. In the coming days, the time and sale of the time of the sale will be announced. So stay tuned on our other channels, Twitter, Discord, Telegram, for details on the sale. Also, as Akash said before, explore the agent on Twitter, tag it, comment on its hypotheses. We really want these conversations to flow first on X and really start to feed intelligence into the agent to stress test it. It'll be a working product, but we're excited to see what it churns out as you guys start engaging with it on social and then ultimately within the terminal itself. So check out RUBR.ai. I think I did that correctly. We'll drop that in the comments too, but check out the dashboard there and stay tuned. This sale is imminent, and we're super excited for this amazing moment to happen and for Aubrey to be on board. And so thank you guys all for joining. It's a blast.
And thank you for everything.
Aubrey, next time we'll do get Aubrey on this call too.
Very good.
For sure.
Cool.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. It was a pleasure.
See everyone. Bye-bye.